Thanks for joining us.
Oh gosh, it's good to be here.
It is.
We just keep on moving. Keep on moving.
Keep on track. What is it? Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Still one of my favorite movies, by the way.
I don't know what movie that is.
Finding Nemo? Dora?
Oh my God. Yeah, Dora. But no, that was like another lifetime for me.
Yeah,
I'm
me
way past
too.
that life. Jesus. Welcome to the show. This is your Sober Now What? And if you're following along, Sobriety for Dummies, that's what we're talking about. It's our book. You can find it over on Amazon or any other online resale, whatever it's called, online bookshop. How about that?
Yeah.
We're on chapter 6.
Yes, we are.
Chapter 6. And you know the cool thing about the Dummies book is that you can open any chapter at any time and you're going to learn something. Their whole brand is about learning made easy. Learning is fun. So I'm super stoked that we're on chapter 6. It's the spiritual dimension of recovery, Tamar.
Lane and I have been talking about this since probably we started season 1 because this is your jam. Like,
I love it.
A lot of this stuff comes directly from Lane. And if you haven't listened to season 1, make sure you listen to season 1.
Yeah.
We've got some good goodies there for you. And like Lane said, the book can be viewed from any chapter at any time. So it's really, really cool.
So perhaps we should start with, you know, a lot of people are not spiritual. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
And I truly believe and recognize that, you know, we were just talking about our DNA and our genetics. And, you know, when you think about your neurotransmitters, you know, the dopamine and all those little juicy chemicals, they're floating around your head. I'm just going to say it. There is what I believe to be a God molecule.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people miss that. They don't want to talk about it, but there is one. That's something that you can Google and do some research on. But I bring up this spiritual dimension that occurs. And again, people don't like to talk about this, but at the end of the day, for long-term recovery, there has to be a spiritual dimension to your life.
Yeah.
Whether that be you outside, you know, digging in the garden, or sitting in a prayer room, or sitting with your kid, there has to be some kind of spiritual dimension. And a lot of times what I've discovered in long-term recovery is that that's a no. People don't have time for it. So I want to go over kind of defining the spiritual emptiness, the spiritual illness, the spiritual malady, the spiritual poo-poo. Like that was kind of a long ramble to get to. I want to talk about when we're not feeling it, right? Being able to identify the spiritual discontent.
Yeah, because I noticed today,
Yeah.
I definitely try to maintain my spirituality, but sometimes it's just, it doesn't happen. And when I'm spiritually fit, I can pause and respond. When I'm not, I react. And then I'm like, uh-oh, that shouldn't have came out of my mouth, right? Because I don't think before I say something and I don't treat people very, you know, not maybe the way that they would like to be treated. And it definitely affects me. So why don't you start off, you know, what is your definition of spiritual malady?
Well, you kind of just nailed it. Like when I'm not nice, right? Like think about when we're born. You know, babies are perfect little beings.
Yeah.
They're like joy filled. And then the world just starts dumping on it. Emotions and not enoughness and lack and, you know, just the world. And if you have an alcoholic, you know, propensity, the genes, the DRDs, right? You're just set up to be like miserable, like
yeah. Always
sad,
looking at
sad
the
face.
negative. Yeah.
Negative.
Yeah.
Right? You lack that juju's. Like the yummy juju juice. So I think spiritual sickness is discontentment, just irritability.
Yeah.
Unsettled.
Yeah.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? Uneasiness. Lacking agreement, or being
Mhm.
incongruent.
That's a
Ooh.
good one. That's a good one.
I think also not being able to make a decision.
Yeah.
Like, I think this spiritual illness can show up many, many ways.
Mhm.
Uh, a lack of clarity.
Yeah, I remember before I got sober, I was all those things that you said, right? I mean, spiritually bankrupt, financially
Mm-hmm.
bankrupt. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't happy in my marriage. I
Mm.
looked at everything as from a glass half empty
Yeah.
viewpoint rather than a glass half full. And when I look at back then to today,
Mm-hmm.
it's like today, even, I mean, the last few years for me have been incredibly difficult. Like, remember a few months ago telling my wife, I'm like, I know they say that there's this phrase, right? God never gives you more than you can handle, or your higher power, whatever you want to call it. And I was like, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
because I'm constantly working on myself,
Yeah.
and my spirituality, I can still look at it in a positive light, like, yes, this might be happening, but this is also happening. And, whereas before I'd be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to stuff my face. I'm going to drink a bottle of vodka. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I would right away turn to those things that sabotaged my growth.
Mm-hmm.
And today I don't always do that. There will be times where I'm like, I really want to go out for an ice cream right now,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not my go-to anymore.
Mm-hmm.
My go-to is maybe I should call a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should get some extra sleep. Maybe I should diamond dart because I'm into that now, right? I'm looking for things that are going to give me a positive response.
Mm-hmm. But that takes time and
Yeah.
effort, right? That takes this internal compass being redirected. And the way that we move that internal compass is by sitting still and
Hmm.
listening and getting quiet enough to hear that internal voice say, you need to do something differently.
Yeah.
Right. And it takes time. It just takes time of adjusting that internal compass.
Hmm.
Right. And the spiritual malady, that kind of sickness, that resentment, like that, the untreated trauma, right? Like the years, it just takes time to unravel sometimes.
It does. And I remember when I first got sober and a lot of in recovery,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, like there is a spiritual aspect that I think is so beneficial. And I look at it as mandatory for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I need. But I was one of those people that I was a jerk to anybody who had any affiliation to the church, was religious. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would make fun of it. I'm like, how can you believe in something you can't see?
Mm-hmm.
But it's because my eyes were closed. And so, I remember being very resistant. And I
Mm-hmm.
had a friend sit me down one day and say, Tamar, you're white knuckling it. If you don't do something, you're going to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was getting to that point where I was like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And she said, instead of like trying to fit into what everybody else is doing, how about you journal? Like, if you could create some sort of a higher power, universe, energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it, what would that look like to you? And I was like, well, love, guidance,
Mm-hmm.
intuition,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Somebody that's, or something that when I want to make a decision, I'm going to get more clarity on it, right? Things are going to happen in my life where I'm like, okay, that's clearly a directional kind of circumstance. And that was easy for me.
Mm-hmm.
I also did I have to share this story really quickly. I was desperate enough to stay sober, so I ended up going to church with a friend of mine. And I remember she said, pray that you're going to let go and let God and you don't have to control your life anymore. And I was like, this is silly, but I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, whatever you are, give me like bright lights shining. I don't do subtle lane, as you know it. I'm
Yep.
the touch the stove twice before I realize it's hot kind of person. And so I went to this service and I don't go to church, But I went to this service and there was a really handsome youth pastor that stepped onto the stage. That grabbed my attention right away. And
Uh-huh.
he walked over to the side of the stage and looked, I felt like he was looking right at me and said, if you're here because you need to let go and let God and stop controlling your life, you're in the right place. Let me tell you, Lane,
Mm-hmm.
I started sobbing after everything I had prayed about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's, I'm not saying go to church to find your spirituality, but I feel like from that moment on, that malady that I experienced, right, that
Mm-hmm.
resentment, that
Mm-hmm.
restlessness, it was removed to a degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think being able to identify the spiritual malady
Yeah.
is epic.
Epic. Yes.
Epic. And
Epic.
it just takes practice, because when
Yeah.
you're in it, like when I am in the spiritual sickness, I have no idea. I have no idea that I'm kicking the dog, screaming in my head, drinking the matchas, doing the behaviors that I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. And it takes me sitting down, it takes a friend saying, "Hey," right? It takes sometimes an outsized entity to say, "You're not doing okay," like my husband,
Yeah.
right? Like he called me out. Recently he said, "You need to get it together." And I was like, "What?
How dare you?
How exactly? How dare you?" But
Yeah.
then I like had to, I took a moment, I took a beat and I said, "Oh, he is dead spot on. I am way far away from this power, this resource, this inner peace that
Yeah.
I like. I'm like screaming at my kid, and I'm in agreement with myself to not yell in the house anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was yelling in the house, right? We have a 3-story house and I'm yelling. And, my mentor said, "You don't need to yell anymore." And I was like, oh, wow. But so again, I recognize like, wow, I am spiritually not centered
Mm-hmm.
because I'm screaming in the house. It doesn't matter what I'm screaming about. It could be his homework, his chores, whatever. But again, this is long-term recovery. Like this is where I'm at. I'm screaming. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's like I don't need to. I can walk in there gently with a
Yeah.
kind, open heart. But no, I'm screaming.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It just, like I think about when I was on Hate Street yelling at that guy. I got out of
Yeah.
the car, right? Or I'm flipping somebody off.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are all moments that I am incongruent with my spiritual path. I'm judging. I was standing in line at Starbucks, of all places, judging the person in front of me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, "What are you doing? What? No." Like they're getting whipped cream. Good on them. They can afford it. I can't. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like like let them have their whipped cream.
Yeah.
Right? My judgy little mind though, and again, this is where I really am like, whoa, insidious.
Yeah.
The spiritual malady is just always there. And so it's my job to try to sort that out. This chapter is full of examples, ideas for you to kind of jump into. We talk about Samantha has a little bit of one of our guest contributors, and Felicia talks about the threefold disease. So I really hope you'll jump into chapter 6
Mm-hmm.
and think about how your spiritual malady is showing up today.
Mm-hmm.
And share. Let us know. Send us an email and say, "Look at this. This is what I'm doing in my life." I don't know. Leave a comment below in the comments. That'd be cool.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing. It comes in all different sneaky ways.
Yeah.
Like if you find yourself doing something, taking action and
Mm.
going, oh, that didn't feel good.
Yep. There
That's
it
a
is.
really good sign that you're acting out and not being very spiritual. If I'm at a restaurant and there's all sorts of
Mhm,
examples,
mhm.
right? And I
Yep.
decide to be mean or be rude. Like there's all sorts of examples in our lives where I
Yeah.
can see myself and it's like I have this out of body experience. I'm like, why did I do that?
Right.
Then
The look. You give somebody a look.
oh, I know. Yeah.
I can feel the look. Oh my gosh. Well, I think we can wrap it up with a
I think
bow.
so. Yep.
Yeah, go enjoy this chapter. Let us know how your spiritual malady shows up in your life. Make sure you download the app, sign up for the newsletter, hang out with us, get those extra chapters over at Wiley. Tamar, thanks so much for hanging out with me.
It's been another great chat. Thanks, everyone.